Hello everyone, this is Grandmaster Lemos, and we start with the modern defense. And of course, after the moves e4, g6, we have the modern, and we know the modern is similar to the Pirc. However, we have some differences, and the main difference, I should say, is the fact black doesn't play d6 in every single variation. In a lot of variations as black, we can try playing a quick d5, or depending on what white plays, we can also try playing c6 and d5. So that is the main difference. And before we start analyzing the main lines, we need to analyze the sublines. And there is a move which is sort of a blitz move, I should say, which is h4. And this move is interesting. It is played by strong players, so let's take a look at h4. White is trying to, find a refutation right from the get-go, playing h5, weakening our king side, and here is where we need to do something about it. And the move I like is knight f6. And this, by the way, is not the most natural move for us. The most natural reaction would be playing h5, which is interesting as well, but then white has got this square for the rest of the game, unless we play f6, which is a move, that weakens the king side a lot. So h5, it is possible you can find some games with this move. It is also true that whereas white has got the g5 square, we have this square as well. You can try playing something like this, c6, d5, and we place our bishop on g4. But I don't know, knight f6, once you take a look at knight f6, you'll realize it is the best approach, at least in practice. Another move is h6, but then white, he can simply play this, and of course our king side is a mess, full of weaknesses. And the main move according to theory, and I also like this, is d5. It makes a lot of sense to react in the center if he just played h4. That is general chess concepts. So d5, this sort of modern Scandinavian, it is also worth a try. But let's take a look at knight f6. The move I choose here, knight f6, and white plays e5. This makes a lot of sense. If he plays something like knight c3, well, then I can even play e5 or d6, and his h4 is not making much sense now. He can play h5, but then I'm ready to take it with my knight. So against knight f6, unless he wants to play a Pirc variation with his pawn on h4, he has to play e5. Here we play knight h5, and now little by little you'll start understanding why we play this. The point of this line is to sacrifice a pawn, and in return we'll get a powerful counterplay as black. And if you saw other videos of mine, you'll probably know that I prefer being down a pawn and having counterplay in return, rather than having the same amount of material and having a passive position. So that's why I recommend this line as black, knight h5, and usually white plays bishop e2. By the way, we are following the game Predrajevic against Andreikin, and apart from bishop e2, the other main move would be playing d4. However, here we play d6, and white, he's got issues protecting his center already. Even if he plays a move like this, like knight f3, I can always play something like bishop g4. And as I was saying, his center is under attack. So d4, d6, There are two moves, as I was saying, bishop e2 and d4. But I think the concept is basically the same. And by the way, here, this is another game, knight f3, bishop g4. This is Morozevich against Nielsen. White played bishop e2. Now we can simply take on e5. White took like this, although here he's also losing material, I think. If he takes this way, we can just take on d1, bishop takes or king takes, then we play bishop here, knight c6 or knight d7. He's likely to lose the e5 pawn, as you can see, and our knight on h5 is quite safe. I don't see any way for white to attack our knight on h5. So basically this position, this pre-endgame, is much better for black. So this knight f3, d4 knight f3, it is possible, but I think that e5 pawn is a weakness sooner or later. And you're probably asking what happens if he takes on d6. Well, this is also possible, and now we can take both ways, and no matter how we retake, we have a standard position, the only difference being his pawn is on h4. And of course, this is favoring us, for obvious reasons. So, before we finish this comment of the d4 move here, bishop e2 is the main line, but before we close the d4 variation, d6, knight f3, bishop there, bishop e2, takes, in the game Morozevich-Nielsen, white took with the knight, bishop takes e2, well, he can take with the king on e2, but that's not very good looking, so queen takes d4. I like this fearless move because, as black, we do have some development, so we can afford taking the pawn on d4, queen b5 check, knight d7. We are safe and sound here in this position. And in this game, Morozevich took on d7. And here is where black, instead of playing queen takes d7, which I guess it's equal after queen takes b7. I still like black's position, but let us say it is equal. Instead of this, instead of queen takes d7, here black has got an amazing move, which is queenside castle. Unbelievable. We protect the pawn on b7, the knight on d7 is trapped, we have some mating threats on d1, and next move, if he plays something like knight c3, we can play queen takes d7, and we are up a pawn, not to mention his kingside weaknesses. So, this line, I mean, you'll find this in the analysis, the game Morozevich against Nielsen. But basically, if white plays with h4, I think it makes a lot of sense for him to continue with the move bishop e2. So after this move, we are not going to move our knight. I mean, we could, but then we would be wasting a lot of tempi. For instance, knight f4, then he can play this move. He pushes our knight back, he's got d4, our knight is gonna land on e6, doesn't look good for us, so knight f4 is not good. This move, well, I mean, doing the fianchetto with our knight doesn't look very good either, and then d4, h5, it's like white is developing an initiative very soon. So the whole point of this line is to meet the move bishop e2 with the move d6. Now, he can take on h5 if he wants to, but then, as I said before, we are going to develop an initiative. And we'll also have the bishop pair, which is very important in open positions. So after d6, white's main move is e takes d6, or d4 as played in the game. But e takes d6 is, well, I didn't mean to say the main move, but I wanted to say the first move we should analyze. E takes d6, but here we take with the queen. Of course, we are playing active chess, so he's got h4 in, and that's why we take with the queen. We need to bring our pieces out as soon as possible. We need to punish him for his lack of development. That's why I take with the queen. And here, if he plays bishop takes, I don't mind. I can just take. He can take the pawn if he wants, but then rook here, and my attack is way too powerful. Even if he takes on h7, we don't really care. We'll play knight c6, we'll queenside castle, and this is probably just winning for black in the long run. I mean, if he takes on h7, I think the attack is way too powerful for black. And if you check this with an engine, you'll realize this is a decisive advantage for black already. And it's not, I mean, it is easy to tell, because his king is very weak, we've got the bishop pair, easy development. So this line for white, if he sets the pawn, then he's in trouble. I think that's the best way of putting it. So d6. In the main game, Pratojevic against Andreikin, white played d4. But this line, I think this line is bad for white as well. Because if you see how the game was, takes, queen takes d1, bishop takes, and now knight c6. We have a pre-endgame where black is simply better because white's pawn on e5 is very weak. And white, he cannot afford playing a move like f4 because he's got the pawn on h4 already, and we can play a move like this. If he had the pawn on h2, that would be different because his king side is not weak, but he's got the pawn on h4. So this move f4 looks very, very reckless from white. So after d6, now we'll take a look at this pre-endgame, which was the game Pratojevic against Andreikin. This was the main game. I guess, oops, not f3. Knight f3 is the other option for white, but here I can just play bishop g7. If he wants to take, I can take with the pawn, I can take with the pawns or with the queen. I think the three moves are possible, and my position is clearly better because he's got h4 in, and we're just playing normal chess. And h4 has nothing to do with white's strategy at this point. So knight h5, bishop e2, d6. Here white played d4, and now we are going to play an endgame, or pre-endgame. D takes, queen takes, he takes with the bishop. Taking with the king doesn't make any huge difference. And if it happens to make a difference, it's favoring us even more, because his king is on d1, and we'll just check him on the d file. So bishop takes, knight c6, and according to the analysis, this is a slight advantage for black already. In the game, white played the active knight c3. As you can see, he's not protecting the pawn on e5, but the other moves are, well, f4. As we pointed out, very bad move. We can play this. He has to play rook h2. I can play bishop e6, for instance, bishop f5. I castle queenside, and again, his position is a mess. I also think f6 is coming anytime soon, opening that position as much as I can. And yeah, in this position, what I also see is that despite, queens being off, I think black has a powerful attack, because that king on e1 doesn't have good defenders. Most of white pieces are on the first rank, are passive, and rook h2 is completely out of the game. So another move that is analyzed by Grandmaster Schulz. We have this variation. I'll just follow what he says. It makes a lot of sense, by the way. If white plays like this, he's just weakening his position even further. And now we'll have extra options like h5. So the analysis says knight c3. bishop d7 or bishop e6. There's no rush to take on e5, because then he's got moves like this, or bishop f4. As you probably know, material is not as relevant as the initiative, so here we castle first, and then we can take on e5. And if he plays bishop f4, then we can play this move, and believe it or not, the engine is saying this is close to a decisive advantage for black. And I believe it, because if he plays knight e2 or knight f3, this pawn is hanging. What else? If he moves the bishop, then moves like knight d4 are coming, or knight e6, this bishop is hanging, e5 is hanging. We are all over the place as black, and white, he's got no coordination whatsoever. So yeah, this line, I have to say this line is not very good for white. I think it's good for blitz games, but I don't think it's a very good try for classical chess. If black is well prepared, then best white can hope for is equality, but that's it. So knight c6, in the game white plays knight c3. Here black played bishop e6. I like it. We'll have time to take on e5 later, but first let us castle queenside. And that is what happened. Knight here. Here black took. I guess we can also castle queenside, but yeah, maybe black was concerned about this move. But even here we have knight g7 and our position is completely safe. But yeah, if you think about it, and knowing how this game was, you can tell bishop d7 was more precise than bishop e6. Why? Because after bishop d7, white, he doesn't have this counterplay he had in the game. And second, because we are going to castle, and then we can just try taking the e5 pawn. So the main line here would be knight f3, I can play bishop g7, e5 is falling sooner or later, and then I castle queenside, and that's it. Clear advantage for black. Bishop g4 is coming, again e5 is hanging, white, he doesn't have a good development, and even after a move like this, we can play f6, rook e8, and each move we play, our position is getting better, so this would be my main line in this analysis. Playing with bishop d7, very solid, and then I queenside castle. What black played in the game, it's also good of course, but then after knight h3, if we castle then knight g5 is a bit annoying, even though we have this move, but still, I don't want to lose the bishop pair, so the game was bishop e6, knight h3, black took on e5, white played like this, and black is still much better, but that position requires accurate play from both sides. White played b3, suddenly if we move our bishop then he's got variations like this, or bishop b2. We are up a pawn, but that position is a mess. And black found the best moves in the process, like this, and if pawn takes knight d3, but still, that position is messy, and I think it's easier for us to just play bishop d7, and that's it. You can check the entire game, you'll find it on the PGN files, Preradojevic against Andreikin. It is a very good game, but I think we analyzed the main lines in this h4 variation, and the concept would be play with the initiative. If you lose a pawn, that's fine, but the key is to punish white for playing a side move like h4. I hope you enjoyed this chapter, I hope you found this useful, and of course I want to see you guys in my next video. Thank you.